Alright, here goes. More Kerbal Space Program. Let's make sure I actually have the chat up, though. Be helpful. Even though the chat has been ominously quiet lately. I'm Mosing. You playing with the microphone, you silly cat? Hey, Cooper. Sorry, cat's more entertaining. Hey, what are you doing? Knock it off. Alright, we got a few contracts left we need to get knocked out here. So let's get to it. One of the things I was interested in doing before that, and while I wait for everything to gear up, wanted to take the 1-ton probe bus, kind of update that a little bit. Number one, I was thinking about this. I don't need the full fuel load on this. I could probably cut down the weight quite a bit doing that. Yep, makes it just a little less than a ton. So that's number one. So I should have done that before. The second bit of this is I know I've got a contract for Duna. We don't want that to be our route. There we go. We've got a contract for Duna that requires the materials bay. And I want to see if I can come up with a version of this that is still light. So something like that. Maybe something like that, actually. So something like that. To allow me to go ahead and put the materials bay on there. Make it too heavy for that launcher, the Soshi launcher. Now, I wouldn't use the Soshi for a Duna launch, obviously. But I could reuse the payload for something along those lines. That would just be bad. That would, well, maybe not. Maybe not a ton. Not very bad. There we go. Oh, see, this does just make this already too heavy. So we just go for a fairing that ends right there. Still too heavy. Yeah, this might not work the way I was envisioning it. Like, this would still be light, but don't think the Soshi would cut it for this. Which, I mean, I could completely remove these. And then I'd be near the right weight. That's kind of a tough call. Because yes, it'd be the right weight, but it means I'd have to make sure that I stop short of orbit. 0.075. 0.03. So these would actually be heavier even. More aerodynamic resistance though. Something that might work, because we know this won't make it to orbit on its own. So I don't have to worry about deorbiting. We're going to save that and just keep that for later. On to bigger and better things. There's something I wanted to check out. We need to see how it's going with our transfer vehicles. We've got some transfer vehicles out there. Three days away from an encounter. 6 days away from an encounter. Yeah, we got a long way to go till Minimus for both of those. So we can afford to do some other things. Which might be wise. If I have anything that's actually achievable at the moment. We have a component recovery. Component recovery sounds like the right idea. Yes, let's do that. Okay, so we're going to open Capture Vessel 2.5. We are going to replace the old Centurion, sorry. Thinking of the actual second stage, not the Kerbal stage that I've developed. Anyway, we're going to go from the old Centurion to the new Centurion here. And I think I'm going to end up going... Actually, maybe to the no, Optio Heavy isn't wide enough. So Centurion Medium would be probably overkill for this payload. I might be able to get away with just a regular Centurion. I'm not sure on that, because these tubes get heavier as they get longer. And the last time we were not able to complete orbit with a shorter tube. So I think maybe I'm at an impasse, or I do not have a good launcher for this vehicle. Now, I can easily make an adapter for this, I think. If I really put my mind to it. I really only need 300 units of fuel here. Now that has 540. That has a lot of fuel in it. I don't need all that fuel. Let's see if I can't cut it down. Make it something this can actually handle. And it does save us about 6K funds over the old version of this. The only question is center of mass. Sorry, that's center of thrust. Center of mass versus aerodynamic center of pressure is an issue, to say the least. Now, I did leave this gap in here very conveniently. I can add a pair of fins right in the middle. But that is not enough. It's not enough to drag that downward. That is also not enough. Gotta find one of these that's maybe creating more drag than the others, but I don't think that's a thing. And it could just be my very poor selection of winglets. Now, the center of mass will shift upwards significantly. If we just, for a moment, take the fuel out of the bottom of the vehicle. So it'd be much more stable. So let's make sure it burns from the bottom first. Put 6 winglets on. And we're back to this being quite expensive. However, still cheaper than the old version. So still is what I'm going to do. Not so bad that we would need to revive the old Centurion. And boy, is this a mess. I'm forgetting this is an Optio as well, so I only got the one engine. Anyway, we're gonna need to put the boosters down here, separate here, second stage engine, which is right here. Before that happens, we're gonna need to separate the boosters, both sets of them. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. That's second stage. This separates that. Of course, we do want a pair of Separatrons to deorbit this bad boy. You know, probably didn't need to angle those at all. I think they're already kind of angled with this. Yeah, that should do. Our Separatrons, so when we do separate that off, there we go. So that'll kick those off, open up the payload bay, and then we would, of course, activate the engine, then changing the direction of the vehicle. And then we would need to separate that section off to expose the heat shield. We would then deploy the drogue chutes and the main chutes. The fairing we'll probably need to separate somewhere around here. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go with it. This actually looks quite a lot like the old Centurion. Just at this point, it's 2-stage plus boosters instead of 1-stage and boosters. Actually, yeah. We've just replaced one segment of fuel with a Cheetah engine and a separator. So how did this end up cheaper? I wonder. Oh, yes, it was because it had a very large upper stage as well that I'm not accounting for. Okay. That makes more sense. So we need to wait for our target to come around, which is going to be this guy right here. That's our component that we need to recover for our contract. Wait till it's maybe just a little ahead of us. Not ahead of us, but ahead of where our good launch positions should be. So we should be able to come into a lower orbit. And we are launched. We're on our way. So we ride out these boosters to about 10,000 meters and begin our prograde turn. It did give us just a little more than 300 fuel in there, just to kind of make up for the extra weight of the tank, because the tank itself is a little heavier. Getting some oscillation, which does not look good. Actually, I think this would classify as pogo. Hopefully, we can keep this bird steady. Okay. Oh, that's a fight. Alright, that's fine. We have steadied back out. We are fine. Situation normal. How are you? Okay. Driving our apogee. That was only minorly catastrophic. That wasn't, you know, hugely catastrophic. But noted. Some kind of auto strut is probably recommended the next time we attempt that. Almost to a safe altitude for us to cut the fairing. I should actually set this as our target. Yep, we want to start shallowing out. Fairing can go. Very good. Alright, second stage can go in. On its way. Looking very good. So at this point, it's just a matter of accelerating. Want to get our horizontal velocity up to orbital velocity. We are tracking the target, which just scared the bejesus out of me because I saw our our speed dropping. But that is our relative speed. Relative speed is supposed to drop. Alright, we need to angle down a little more. Stop driving such a high apogee, because we do need to end up preferably on a lower orbit than our target, so we can catch up to it. This is why I started this what seemed like a little late at the time, because I was worried we were going to end up in too high an orbit. And I do want us to try and catch up to the vehicle. It should be doable if we just lower our orbit. So we're doing about 70,000 meters. So we're going to just keep pitching down, actually, because we are way overkilling it. So we're going to lower our apogee while we're driving our perigee up. This is looking good. Okay. Very good, actually. We have a rendezvous that looks good as it is on the next approach here. So I can probably make some kind of an adjustment at ascending node to correct our inclination ever so slightly. And then also, this is going to be a little balancing game. also check our radial in and out just to make sure that we can get ourselves to a proper intersect, which it looks like is totally doable. So there we go. Not too bad, actually. We get one very light maneuver, and we will be on our way. And we can use the second stage to do this. That should not be a problem. We'll want to thrust limit it significantly, though. So we actually stand a chance of accurately completing the burn. Accuracy is going to be key for that one. We're going to warp to the next maneuver. That actually really was a very good launch, all said and done. I'm very pleased with how that turned out. I could have definitely gotten away with less fuel in that second stage. And I will keep that in mind for next time we launch a full-length capture vehicle. So with this down to just a 2-second burn, even with the thrust limiting, we're going to wait till 1 second away from the maneuver node to execute the burn. And there it is. Splendid. That looked actually pretty good. The real maneuver that ended up with is about a 0.1 kilometer intersect, so we will get within 100 meters of it. Relative speed when we get there will only be 13.1 meters per second, so that will be an extremely minor adjustment for an orbital rendezvous. And I will keep this second stage on in order to do that. Now, before we hit any problems, I am going to extend these solar panels. Just make sure that we actually can get some sun here. Because I am slowly draining electric charge. And these are not getting sun right now in this position. So I'm going to pitch us slightly here. Turn stability assist on and let those solar panels do their work. There we go. Looking good. Very goofy looking craft, but we are looking good. So we are going to, we're basically going to warp right up to this maneuver. This is going to be quite easy. I don't think I am going to bother with the usual maneuver placement just to time our burn, because I think this should be one that we can eyeball quite easily. 13.1 meters per second should only be a 4-second burn, and that's with our thrust limited significantly. If I boost that back all the way up, we're going to be looking at a 1-second burn. So we're going to keep ourselves retrograde target. We're going to wait till our closest point of our intersect, and we'll just come to a relative stop to this component, whatever this component may be. I'm actually not sure what it is. I didn't send anything up to scout it and see what it is first. So we are actually getting quite close to this. And we'll take advantage of that. Perfect. We are station keeping. And somehow I've been making this look incredibly easy. That does not happen, ever. Alright, so we're going to aim ourselves prograde relative to our usual orbit. We're going to eject that lower stage. So that lower stage is going to bring itself back into Kerbin's atmosphere and not leave any debris in space. So, now, very fun indeed. Keep our throttle down. Stage into that engine. Not that we will need it anytime soon here, because we are already ready to do our docking maneuvers with this craft. So we are going to position ourselves a little closer to our target object so we can see what on earth it is we're actually trying to recover. And from there, I'm going to figure out how we're going to fit it into our cargo bay. I'm having a hard time seeing what it actually is. And it does not help that I have no source of light on this thing. It actually looks like it's a cheetah engine. Go back to target tracking here. That is indeed a cheetah engine. We're starting to see a little bit of light hit it as we get into the daylight side of Kerbin. That is odd. That is an odd component to have to try to recover. The good news is it definitely does fit inside the bay. We do have the claw extended at the moment. So we are going to position ourselves. I just realized why I was having trouble with the controls. This control point needs to be set to reversed. There we go. So we're going to move ourselves a little closer. There we go. Down a little bit. Let's just monitor our monoprop carefully. Make sure I don't burn through all of it with our maneuvers. We've been very smooth up to now. I want to make sure we maintain that. So I want to actually probably just go a little bit this way. And a little bit down. Line ourselves up so we're approaching directly from the base of the engine here. Okay, that should do. Whoop. Not what I wanted. Not what I wanted. I was getting a little ahead of myself there on the maneuvers. That's fine. We're okay. Back to station keeping. We're going to turn off the RCS. We're going to switch over to rotational mode, and we're just going to position ourselves. I love that the fins keep spinning and hopefully not hitting our precious cargo there. Get ourselves in the correct orientation to pick up this cargo. There we go. Looks pretty good. And then we can go back to linear and resume our maneuvering. Up a little bit, actually. Get that just right. That was maybe a bad call. I should have trusted the maneuver ball. Because we were slightly angled, so I shouldn't have gone as high up as I did. So we have to make up for that now. Okay, that looks pretty dead on. So we just want to very carefully there we go. There we are. Perfect. Perfect. That is the definition of a perfect capture there. Alright. So we've captured our contracted part. We are way past the Kerbal Space Center. I'm not going to wait for a full rotation. So what we're going to do is now aim ourselves retrograde. We are going to enable forward by throttle on all of these. just to use the last of our RCS to help us out, because we really didn't need that much, surprisingly. And then we go full throttle and deorbit as much as possible. Not a bad contract recovery, if I do say so myself. So this bottom segment here will deorbit us as much as possible. We'll eject it once we get close in, just so I make sure we maintain power in the secondary core throughout re-entry, allowing us to deploy our parachutes at the correct time. And we will bring this contract part back safely to a splashdown here in one of Kerbin's oceans. So, nearly out of fuel. And our insane capture vehicle is ready to separate. So we'll kick off. Whoop, up before in staging mode. Kick off that that section. Probably should have waited a little longer just to make sure we have electric charge, but we have quite a bit. We should be all right. And this way that will not get in the way of our re-entry. Well, besides, we should be actually descending quite quickly from this point. So the first thing I'll do once we are actually going to lose contact with this, because it is radio controlled, and we are going to go through the process of re-entry, which is going to ionize the atmosphere around it. Once we get control back after that point, I will be deploying the drogue chutes, and then we'll follow up with the mains. And that should have a very safe splashdown. Alright, going through re-entry. So the big ablator, which I honestly could have toned down quite a bit. I'm going to remember that for next time as well. Make it just a little easier. There we go. Craft should orient itself. I don't really need SAS or RCS for this. We're out of RCS fuel anyway, because it was all in the bottom section. Those fins definitely making all the difference. Perfecto. Alright, drogue should be safe to deploy. I'm going to give it just an extra couple 1,000 meters here. There we go. Just to make sure that we slow down significantly enough. Drogues are going to make this nice and easy. Alcazane says, what's up? Oh, just another day earning Kerbal dollars. How are you, sir? Ooh. There's our capture vessel way off in the distance. Alright, I'm going to give this just a little more slowdown before I deploy the mains. maybe 150 meters per second. Even though I know it is telling me it's safe. That was quite odd. A little burst from the engine there. For an unfueled engine trapped in space, I'm surprised it ignited. And our crazy contraption has once again proven itself. Yeah, we don't need to go this slow. We can probably cut some of these parachutes. That should do. I definitely put way too many parachutes on this. The idea was just to make sure whatever payload I picked up, it would be able to handle it. But for just a 1-ton part, definitely overkill. But just like that, who needs a space shuttle? Disposable rockets can do part recovery too. And we just got a little wet, no big deal. A little salt water. I'm sure they won't mind. Some of our funds back. Not bad. That was actually pretty cheap. Really? This is beyond easy. Wow. Okay, I didn't think it would even offer such easy contracts at this point. Now, I did want to test one thing. And I'm remembering now what I wanted to test. Before I do that insanely easy contract, which I might do a proper launch just to entertain myself, I did catch that in our min-miss ore recovery, it does still leave this acquire 500 units of fresh ore from min-miss, and then it has separate have 500 units of ore in your vessel and land your ore at Kerbin. Those are separate. So even though I lost that vehicle, I'm kind of thinking, and thinking might be overstating what I'm actually doing here. If I were to put 500 units of ore in a vehicle, so yeah, and if I was to release it from some launch towers with some parachutes, what would be the result? Can I cheat it, basically? Because I have an exceedingly expensive vehicle on its way to Minmus to go and mine this ore all over again and do all this, which is fine and dandy. But if I don't need to do it, I'm gonna laugh at how broken this is. And that sounds like the kind of entertaining thing that I would like to do. So I'm going to make this contraption with the goal of testing this theory. So we're going to release, launch all parachutes, and we're just going to land it with 500 ore and see if that closes the contract. Why not? Why not try to cheat the system? It's not my fault the last ore carrier sank to the bottom of the ocean. Well, technically it is, but, you know, let's not go blaming people. Alright. That's very bouncy. That is a bouncy, bouncy craft. So stable for 10 seconds. I had a feeling. I actually closed the contract. So, at like 30-ton vehicle I have on the way to Minmus is completely not required. Oh, that's just funny. Makes me sad a little bit, but also makes me happy at the same time. Well, I've gone and cheated through that one. I want to know if my vehicle worked, though, so I am still going to land it, mine with it, bring it back, and see what happens. Extract. Okay. That would have been nice to know. I could have redirected that to the moon. And that mission is strictly to extract it. Doesn't say anything about bringing it back. I don't plan on using the moon as an ore mining facility, though. That just doesn't seem efficient at all. The reputation bonus, though, is through the roof. I don't think I'm going to take that one. However, I am going to well, maybe I'm not going to do... I was going to say I might do that booster launch now, but I'm probably going to wait till it just comes up, because I use that booster all the time anyway. There's no sense in launching something I don't need to launch. I have an idea anyway. Which I might do, because this still has probably a while, yep, a good while, before this monstrosity that is no longer needed actually gets its way to Minmus. Yes. Massive, unnecessary monstrosity. This tickles me. This tickles me a little bit. Because this is so ridiculously unnecessary at this point. How heavy is this vehicle? How heavy is this vehicle that I've sent out? Okay, 40 tons. 40 tons of useless vehicle. Oh, boy. I should get money for recovering ore, though, so I guess that's that. Oops. I could try and dock it at Deep Space Gateway, refuel it, send it off to the moon to do its mining expedition, and do that mining contract, but it doesn't have enough capacity. Huh. I'll think about that. this one is so inconsequential, I don't feel like doing that one. Just be odd. So I might kind of do something I had in mind for a sort of viewer contract. And if I can give the correct viewer credit here. On the YouTube channel, I did have a request. There is a spreadsheet that's fairly notorious on this channel now. I use quite often for calculating delta V, and it's got a simulator tab on it for second by second predictions of height, speed, and direction of thrust based on what you're doing with the rocket, which helps a lot when you're trying to get specific contracts closed in the upper atmosphere. And viewer Julio G had asked if I could share that spreadsheet, and I do intend to do so. I do want to update the engine values have changed for Kerbal 1.6, and I do have an engine configurator built into that sheet, so I would like to update that beforehand. However, there is one other thing, is that simulator doesn't properly take into consideration the reduced impact of, or the reduced effect of gravity as you get further away from Kerbin. And that is because I just don't have the data. And that is something we can now pick up with the GravMax negative gravioli detector. So a little bit of a viewer contract. We are going to actually close out a contract by launching the BACC booster, which is the first stage of the Sochi rocket we're about to actually kit this out on. But we're going to go to a couple different altitudes around Kerbin and test these things. I might also check the press bat. If I'm able to get this into the upper atmosphere for some tests. And I think I might attempt to do that. Although, how expensive is the press bat? Very cheap, actually. Especially compared to the gravioli detector. So we're going to try and do both. So it's just a little bit of a viewer contract. I think that's fun. So thanks to Julio G for the comment, and I'll make sure I share that spreadsheet and send that off to you. But we want to make sure we get that contract a rollin'. So we're going to go for our cheapest launcher, the Sochi, which is very minimalistic. This is just enough to get a 1-ton payload to orbit, which is all we're carrying today. We're going to reroute this. There we go. Check the staging. Which, of course, is always wrong. There we are. Activate that, and this should activate right down here. Beautiful. Let's actually name this satellite JulioSat, after our viewer who inspired this one. So what I intend to do is first get this into space, get this into low orbit, and I want to check the levels of acceleration from gravity at different altitudes. So I'm going to have to get to very precise orbits in order to do this. This should have plenty of delta V to do that. In fact, I should have enough delta V, if all goes according to plan, to get it into the upper atmosphere for some atmospheric scans, also for the same reason of checking different levels of pressure. So if I get multiple readings at multiple altitudes for each, I should get an idea of how that scales off as you get further away from Kerbin. So, I think we are good to go. Off we are. So we got our contract for launching the booster. That one is complete. Now we ride that booster, which is at only 62% thrust, along with its two twitch engines for gimbal control. We ride that up to 10,000 meters and then begin a prograde turn. It's actually going to be very abrupt. We're going to basically immediately go over to a 45-degree angle, begin driving shallower orbit, or shallower suborbit. There we are. Alright, second stage kicks in. The spark engine. Nice and efficient. Still effective in atmosphere. Let me see, do you still use your Delta V spreadsheet even though Delta V is in game now? I do actually, mostly just for the simulator. For not much for the Delta V calculation anymore. It is nice to kind of test my thoughts before I actually go in and go for it. This is actually looking pretty good. I do like this spark engine. I'm actually going to start tracking the prograde. We are at a sufficient altitude. Staging the fairing should be fine. Go back to stability assist, and let's go for driving our perigee a little more aggressively rather than our apogee. Maybe don't pitch down so far. A lot of Delta V to close. And I wish this actually calculated. That was one of the things I had to use the spreadsheet for, actually. Now that it's being mentioned. Because for some reason, having this tube here, it cancels out the Delta V calculation inside the game. Which I find a little strange. Okay, we're going to angle down again. Make sure we're driving our perigee. Not so much our apogee here. Don't want to get too far out in front of us. Continue to pitch down. This way I'll be doing a little bit of radial in as I am also doing prograde. It's looking much better. Keeping that apogee from sliding out too far in front of us here. That way we're definitely driving our perigee, and we are safely in orbit. With just a little extra to spare. Not bad for a very cheap rocket. So I think our first test, I'm going to try and get us up to exactly 75,000 meters, or 75 kilometers. There we go. Oh, thought we were out of fuel there for a second. So I want this to be just a little below 75. So at exactly 75. I'll be able to take the reading. $74,781. That looks good. All right. We'll warp there. We're going to have to limit this second stage engine slightly. Turn it down to, let's go with 10% thrust. And then it's still a 0.1 second burn. Okay. Okay, so we're on the extreme limited thrust setting. That's interesting. So exactly the maneuver node, we're going to try and kick that off and do it as close as possible to actual. Yep, that's actually, I think, exactly what we had. Perfect. I am going to finally kick off that second stage, though, because it kind of frustrates me looking at it. So we're going to make sure our throttle is killed, make sure we are aiming prograde, exactly prograde. These have a slight spin on them, and they are short-fueled, but they should be enough to get that down to deorbit. That spin just keeps it perfectly stable. I got a yup for that one, which I concur. Alright, so now I want to see if we can get ourselves really right exactly. Okay, so we have some stuff broken, I think. No, maybe not. I was waiting for us to get to exactly 75,000 meters, but we're in such a tight orbit, it seems, that value will change very slowly, which is what I wanted. Looks like we got a little bit of a kick in the wrong direction, though, from separation there. We should be coming up and then coming back down. Lovely. I'll check my orbit, make sure we're not as goofed up as I think we are. Oh, we're definitely more goofed up than I think we are. Alright. I see. That's fair. So I want to go retrograde. Just the tiniest amount. Teeny tiny. Okay. Stage. Why is the engine not kicking on? This is active, right? Maybe it is kicking on. Maybe I just don't see it kicking on. Yes, it is. I'm just being crazy. Fair enough. Fair enough. So, of course, press bat is going to read in vacuum. So, there's nothing useful there. But the GravMax is, okay, giving me some very interesting data. I want to see what it reads. At exactly 75,000 meters, though. This should change slightly as we progress. As we get lower in altitude, we should see that display go up in value. And the rate at which it does that is what I am after. It should be 9.81 at ground level. That much I know. Now you can see it went up to 7.75 as we got a little lower. So we're going to take some low altitude readings first, or low orbital readings. And I'm going to work backwards to that 9.81 at ground level. And we'll be able to bake in then those numbers to the second-by-second simulator in the spreadsheet that I use. So now we're doing real science. We're doing real science in Kerbal Space Program. So we're getting near the altitude I want to take this reading at. And it's looking like it's going to stay consistent, 7.75 meters as we come through these last 100 meters or so. Which it doesn't look like it's going to change. Doesn't surprise me that it doesn't change that much as you get further out. It's probably a curve to that. It's probably less of a difference as you get further out. In a meter by meter standpoint. Okay, so 7.75 is our first readout. I actually need to mark that somewhere, and I did not plan on actually doing this tonight, so it's kind of spur of the moment. So I will go ahead and make a note on my phone, because that's what I have in front of me. If I could figure out how to do that. I don't know if I can figure out how to do that. I might be too stupid to figure out how to use a phone. Spaceship's easy, phone hard. Bingo. So we said 7.75 meters per second squared. At 75,000 meters. So it's 75 kilometers. All right, time to get more readings. So we're going to flip back prograde. I'm going to get us up to a higher orbit. Let's go for, let's make math easy. Let's go for 100,000. Doesn't really matter where we drive this. Passing 90. It's like topping up your gas tank. There we go. So we're going to warp our way around. And we're going to raise our perigee. We're going to stop this just a little short of 100,000 meters. Okay, so that way at the midpoint we should be pretty much exactly at 100,000 meters. So we're actually just falling from. I probably could have taken that reading where we were. But that's okay. We'll take the long way this time. Make sure we angle ourselves so we get just a little bit of sunlight here on those solar panels. At least some. The only thing we need to make sure of is that we're not pointing directly at or away from the sun, and we're good to go. Alright, so warp around the other side of the orbit. Passed right by it. Okay, that was genius. I don't think it's going to change, though. We went from under to over, still at 7.21 meters per second squared. So that's not enough of a significant difference in altitude to affect this reading. I should at least get 2 more data points in order to establish how this falls off, how this gravity level falls off. So let's keep the same kind of mentality here. Let's do intervals of 25,000 meters. Let's go for 125,000 meters. And this time, let's be smart. Let's overshoot it slightly. And then I'll take the reading when we're about to reach apogee. There we go. Or I could take it, I could warp to apogee and take it on the way back down. So let's do that. Collecting real-world data. I'm sure I could find the equation for this if I Googled it, but what's the fun in that? And I can do a viewer contract to make it so much more fun. All right, we reached the height of our orbit. We now need to wait till we get just a little closer down here. I'm actually probably going to raise our perigee slightly anyway. Not as dramatically. So we got less distance to go when we do finally drive our next data point. There we go. That should do. I do like that the engine's pretty much silent because I have it throttled down so much. This is a very efficient little craft. I am barely touching the fuel on this thing. I do really like this design. Actually, have I taken... I haven't actually taken gravity scans from here. Sure, send it down. I never even used that thing yet. Is this transferring through a relay? Yeah. Yeah, it's bouncing it off relay 3. Probably going to relay 1. No, actually relay 2 and then sending it back to Kerbal Space Center. So, that's why it's going so slow on the transfer, because it's bouncing between the satellites. And I missed our reading, which sounds like something I would do, because I was distracted. So, 0.672 seems to be right, though. So 0.672 meters per second squared at 125,000 meters. And I probably will time warp us just a little bit. To our next run-in, just to make sure that that data point is accurate. Should be able, with my inferior math skills, should still be able to figure this out. And we're back on descent. What's that all about? Hold on. Am I reading that right? No, we're on ascent. Okay. Got it. Got it. I'm being dumb. Okay. Let's keep time warping us just a little closer. I can just control it from here. I don't know why I'm not doing that like a sane person. You know, like sane people do. There we go. 06.72. Why I was reading that wrong earlier. 6.72 meters per second squared at 125,000 meters. All right. Make another go of it. This time at 150,000 meters. And believe me, I know this is probably the boring part. However, this data will be very valuable. Besides, we're doing real science now. Real maths. Okay. At 150. Should get most of the way there before we actually get up to the right altitude. All right. It's actually looking fairly consistent, which is not what I expected. I expected there to be kind of an arc. But it looks kind of linear, looking at the data points. Or maybe I'm just the tail end of that arc, so. I think from here I'm going to do kind of a more drastic adjustment. I don't think I'm going to keep doing these intervals of 25,000 meters. Bingo. So 6.28 meters per second squared. And that reading was at 150,000 meters. Okay. Very good. Now let's amp it up. Let's see what we can pull off. Actually going to monitor our apogee. Is going to be more important because this is about to flip very easily. It's better? Let's check at 1,000,000 meters. Let's get data points up to geostationary orbit. We should start seeing some very drastic results. Now, I could have just taken a bunch of readings as we were heading up, actually, to be realistic about this. I could just put this on a very high inclinated orbit and just read the detector a bunch of times. But that, again, falls to the what fun is that argument. I might leave this on this orbit for a while, though, actually, and not go any further. I'm looking at the fuel, and I do want to get some atmospheric readings, which is going to require me to keep the engine at a constant throttle to get consistent upper atmosphere readings. That's for the press bat, or press mat. I guess they changed the name of it. Barometer. Maybe it was always press mat. Maybe I'm just dumb. It's always a possibility. I am still contemplating what I'm going to do with that massive unnecessary lander going to Minmus now. I mean, I do obviously want to... I do really badly want to see if it worked, even though I no longer need it. And I guess I would get funds recovery for returning ore, right? I think I do. Okay, getting ready. Ooh. Now that's a result. Yeah, funds recovery is always good. I was laughing, though. I ended up being right. There we go. 1.38. All I had to do... I'm just going to enter that in real quick. All I had to do to finish the contract, because I did actually mine the ore at Minmus already, was drop a craft full of ore onto the ground and then recover it. And I close out that contract. Alright, so now I've got those data points. I'm going to try and do something with those. I'm going to leave Juliosat in this high elliptical orbit. And come back to those readings later if necessary. And I'll deal with the atmospheric part afterwards. Let's see if we got any new contracts for completing the booster contract. Because that was kind of cool that while we were doing this, we actually did close out an actual contract. Contractception. Let's always do things within things. Okay, we got that, ooh. Hoo 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 hoo. Free jet engine. Ooh, and this one too. Position satellite in synchronous orbit of Minmus. What's beautiful about this is that we already have a precedent for this. We already have satellites currently in synchronous orbit around Minmus. Does need a materials bay on the satellite. Okay. I don't think this is a big deal. Satellite contracts. I love doing satellite contracts. And I'm tempted to take this Weasley one because it means I'd be able to get a new turbofan engine. Even if just for the one go until I finish the contract. But, it's not a lot of funds. I could build my car again and just drive it into the water. I am going to do that one. And I'm going to do that real quick, actually. Where did I do that last? In the, I didn't do that in vehicle assembly building. I think I did that in spaceplane hangar. So let's leave the Sochi. We're probably going to have to upgrade to the Decanus launcher for the Minmus satellite. Only because I was seeing the inclination is pretty high. I don't know if that little satellite bus will have enough to power itself after. It would have to get itself all the way to Minmus. If we use a Decanus, we'll have a transfer stage. Yep, we did save this car. So I'm going to actually just name this real quick. Test car. So this is our test rig. Let me take the oxidizer out of this. And we should have a jet engine to test. There we go. Pretty cool. We know this works. So let's just go ahead and launch it. So we're going to go drive it into the water. Mosey. Cat insists on being all over me today. Could you maybe not claw the leather? That'd be nice. Alright, off we go. Now, there's probably some science experiments I haven't actually gathered from KSC, which, I mean, I could easily load onto this and do some science. But it's just always felt cheaty to me, driving around KSC and getting science. Plus, we're already getting so much. Kind of seems pointless. Our space stations are doing a very good job of gathering science for us, and we haven't even gone to another planet yet. We've only gone to moons. And we're like nearing the end of the tech tree. We're going quite fast actually right now. Should probably slow down sometime soon. Oh, that's a little bit steep. There we go. I'm just going to let this kind of coast for a little bit and slow down a little. This little test bed is awesome. Probably should have read the contract first as well. Just make sure there's nothing fancy I need to do. Activate the part through staging sequence. Okay, so that's good. Good thing I didn't turn it on to try to get there faster. Well, I do need to remember that for next time too on ore contracts. If the contract is to mine ore and return it, I really only need to mine it and then also return the same amount of ore, which means I could just drop a vehicle with the same amount of ore at the launch pad and be good to go, which is really cheaty. But that would have made that whole thing a lot easier. Okay, we're going to start slowing down now. Make sure we enter the water nice and slow. Just going to drive up on the beach. Just riding the brakes downhill like a novice driver. Okay, we nose down a little bit, but we're fine. Let's just see if we can inch those wheels a little further. Come on. Apparently the jet engine is not as heavy as the rocket engine was. Well, I think that counts. It does not count, oddly. We seem to be at an impasse. Oh, there we go. We need those wheels off the ground. Oh, that's true, actually. I do need that lander to come back from the surface of Minmus, so I can basically just do that with no ore if I really wanted to. But I will do it with ore. I will do it for the money. Oh, I have the brakes on. That's why it's not going. I'm a genius. Can build rockets, can't figure out cars. Alright. Now it's still not going. Traction control. Blammo. Okay, it still doesn't like me. Motor? Can I up the motor? Can I go in reverse? Nope. Oh, it actually reads the motor here, that's why. Huh. Okay, well, without using the staging... Oh, I don't have an oxygen intake. Oops. That's a double fail. This seems to be quite problematic. This is not going to give me credit for this. So let's recover it. Let's add some fuel to the back. An air intake. And let's try that again. Technically, if I put the fuel in the back, I probably won't need the air intake. I probably don't even need to really run the engine. But it'll be nice to have. Just in case I end up in that same situation of barely touching the ground. Alright, so let's do that. Let's put a big old thing of jet fuel. Cool. Now it'll put the weight on the back tires, so we'll be able to drive ourselves all the way in. That's better. And I didn't put the air intakes, but, you know, that's fine. Like I said, I don't think I need them. I don't think I actually need to run the engine. I just need to stage it. And we should get into the water with the weight on our back tires. Let's get ourselves up to speed. Why the motor is like motor's like dying. More traction control. And I'd want brakes to be heavier in the front, right? Because I'm heavy in the back. Is that how that works? I don't know. It's confusing. It's not rocket science. If it was rocket science, I could understand it. Alright, now. Head down this little ledge. Rather confidently this time. This is a pretty stable vehicle. Seem to be slowly depleting the electric charge despite the fuel cell we have in there. Kind of tucked away. I wonder if it's like actually on. Maybe it's not on. I don't see any way to click it either. It's kind of buried. You can hear the ocean. You can hear one of the cats chewing on something they're not supposed to be chewing on, I guarantee. Mosine, what the fuck? My darling. That one cat likes to stand behind the computer screens and stare at me. Okay, so I was wrong about the brakes. Although the brakes did work. So definitely want brakes in the back. Fair enough. I like that this spun around and didn't just necessarily wheel over and roll over on its back like most Kerbal vehicles tend to. This might be base for a good rover design that I'm going to use on Minmus, because I do have the intent of throwing a rover on there. We're going way too fast. Oh no, we're good. We Gucci. Alright, Kerbin, splash down. There we go. There's a test complete, and we recover the vehicle. Our waterlogged test car has done its job once again. And then I'll get this new satellite on its way to Minmus. I have to design it first, I think. I might just reuse one of the older probe buses. Satellite in equatorial orbit of Kerbin. Well, that's easy. We're going to do that one first. That is really easy. Why would I not do that? So we'll take the Soshi out for another run. This time I don't even need experiments on it. That's the most expensive part of the Soshi. The experiments cost more than the actual craft. So I'll take the 1-ton probe bus out for a test spin. I will take the Soshi, which is our cheapest. This bothered me. I forgot to do that last time. I like that paint job better. Alright, we're going to boom, reroute. Check the staging, which is inevitably wrong. There we are. Alright, another cheap contract. 7,446 funds for the entire launcher. Of course, we'll be recovering this, so it's really more like 7,000 funds. Those little guys stay here on Kerbin. That is quite cheap. That is quite cheap. I'm pretty sure I can make it even cheaper. But I'm not going to push my luck. Contract didn't say anything. Has to be a new probe. Antenna can generate power. Designated equatorial orbit. Maintain stability. Yeah, that's it. That's all we need. That is amazing. That is an easy contract. And I can guarantee I can make money on it. Because for 7,400 funds, it would be very difficult not to make money on it. All right. First stage, the thrust limited solid rocket booster. Pair of twitch engines providing gimbal control. Both burning for exactly 62 seconds. So we'll get this up to 10,000 meters. Or 68 seconds, I think, maybe. Anyway, at 10,000 meters, we're going to make our prograde turn. Pitch this into a 45-degree angle. Start driving our apogee into a more shallow suborbital trajectory. Burnout, we switch to the twitch engine. And this will get us all the rest of the way to orbit. Remarkably. So I'm going to actually set this to follow prograde. This auto follow should work actually pretty well. So a true gravity turn. That'll get us our most energy efficient way to our orbit, to our starting orbit. Now I could have dropped those boosters and just got this to the perigee first and then let the actual probe get itself the rest of the way. But honestly I didn't think of that before I did this, so here we are. And I have those deorbiting thrusters, I might as well use them. We're going to first get to orbit, have ourselves a stable orbit, and then work from there. Start pitching down as we drive our apogee up to make sure that we are actually getting closer and closer to our apogee. We want to right now be working specifically on driving our perigee. And the further we are from apogee, the more we're going to actually be driving our energy into the apogee rather than into the perigee. So a little bit of a radial in burn while we're doing this prograde. You can see that is slowing down as we get closer. There we are. We should be able to start pitching down again pretty soon here. I'm going to keep pitching as we are for the moment. Okay, Apogee's getting in front of us again. We're going to pitch down more aggressively. Okay. Now we want to go prograde again, because we did fall just a little low on the Apogee side. Yeah, see, we ended up putting more energy into the Apogee, 80,000 meters, and less into the Perigee than we intended. Which is a good thing, because I forgot to stage the fairing. So we'll do that now, and the fairing will burn up. In low orbit. Eventually get captured by the residual atmosphere at 60,000 meters. So we'll get up to Apogee. Circularize our orbit. So we at least have a good starting orbit. Hell, I can get this up pretty high, actually. What's the, So, periaps, 1 million meters. So yeah, we can drive the Apogee as high as we want. There we go. That's where we run out of fuel. We'll warp there. Not a bad little launcher. The launcher itself costs about 3,000 funds. The satellite's actually more expensive than the launcher. And definitely did the job. But now the two boosters, which are set up for a spiral, will bring this into an altitude that'll burn up. So that spiral will keep it steady, keep it stable, and heading in the right direction, which is retrograde. Somehow it's already disappeared now. Okay. So our last booster still hasn't smashed into Kerbin yet, although it is due. It's slowly decaying its orbit. This one will smash directly into the planet. So we haven't left any trash in space today, which is good, because we've been on a cleanup mission for quite some time now. And things are finally looking clean. I'd like to keep them that way. Alright, so now, where's our target orbit? Okay, it's not bad. So we're going to start a maneuver. We're going to start with getting our perigee up. So we're going to drive our apogee to our target perigee, which is conveniently also our descending node, which is at 0 anyway. So I don't actually need to change anything there. I thought I was going to need to. So we managed to launch into a perfectly equatorial orbit. That's pretty cool. So then at that point we'll level out our orbit, and then we should have our contract complete. I don't like that this is dangerously close to our relay network, however. So once we complete the contract, I might be deorbiting this bugger. Alright, so first maneuver. We'll get ready for that one. There we go. Let it soak up the sun's rays as long as possible as well. And we'll time warp in there. It's going to be a 16-second burn, so 8 seconds away from the maneuver, I'm going to want to hit full throttle. 2,345 delta V on this little tiny satellite. And it's still using liquid fuel and oxidizer. Now I could reduce the weight of it a little bit more and use a smaller spider engine, or ant engine, I think is the one that's the center fire one, is the, I think, the ant. And that's kind of tempting, but when you got maneuvers like this, and the one I did last night, actually, I did a trans-min-miss burn with the engine. Having the spark makes a huge difference. Alright, that should do. This is now 40 minutes away, so we're going to warp there. Driving your perigee first is the fastest way for getting to a specific orbit as well. Because ultimately that's going to be the quickest place to get to the shortest burn, and then from that point you can finish your entire orbit. So it's going to be a 17-second burn this time. So again, I'm going to want to wait till about let's wait till 8 seconds or so, 9 seconds maybe before, and then I'll hit full throttle with plenty of fuel to spare to deorbit this thing. Oh, this would be 9 seconds. What am I doing? Yeah, 9 seconds away. Alright, little satellite's doing its job. Okay. We should have a perfect orbit. We do indeed. That should be a complete contract, which it is. Not bad. Still a lot of delta V. We could basically come to a full stop with this thing. Pretty cool. For now, I'm just going to leave it. I'll orbit for a little while. I feel like I'm robbing the people I just sent that satellite up for. You get a satellite for 5 minutes. And then, it's kind of rude. Needs to let it do one orbit, right? And I'll check for anything else. We should be winding down on stream here. Usually I do only go till 9 o'clock. Observational surveys of min-miss. That could be doable, but could be annoying because I'd have to have a Kerman in there. I'll take a look at where those are. Yes, we do need to launch the satellite into synchronous orbit of min-miss. So we'll at least launch the satellite today, and we will come back to that on tomorrow's stream. Probably not, actually. Probably in several more streams because of how long it takes to get to min-miss. So we're going to need to not use the Soshi for this one. In fact, we're going to need to not use this probe bus entirely. So we're going to need to probably grab a probe bus B, which does have that. this tried and true probe. Where is it? There we are. Generate power. Have material bay. Designated orbit. Okay, so this, not too bad. Not too bad. So what I want to know is, if I add the fuel required for an Optio or a Decanus second stage, how much will this weigh? 4.5 tons. So this really should go on an Optio launcher if I want to launch this. Now I do have a ridiculous amount of delta V on the actual satellite, and I don't need this goo canister, this thermometer, or this press mat, whatever. And that does make it exactly 4.5. Kind of tempted to try and launch this from a Decanus launcher. Pardon me. Although this needs to be fixed. Okay. Should be enough Sepratron power. Now we want the payload fairing to be stepped up a class. There we go. That looks a little better. How much does that come out to for payload? Almost exactly 5 tons with that setup. Which at that point, I would want probably this third booster. Okay, so yeah, no, this... maybe this wouldn't be good for a Decanus. Let's throw this on an Optio, which is a 5-ton launcher. Just to be sure that this actually gets off the ground here. So we are going to, let's see, put main engine and towers on the first step here. Some boosters to worry about. So we go on to second stage. That second stage has additional fuel to be our Minmus transfer stage as well. Probably going to need to drop this here for the fairing to reduce the weight. This will go with that. This will be the final engine here. Yeah, 6,155 meters per second of delta V is going to be more than sufficient, I'm sure. So let's go ahead and launch this on its way. Alright, off we go. So a nice long first stage here. We get to 10,000 meters and then nose over 45 degrees to begin our gravity turn. This actually will have a very similar flight profile to the Sochi, with the exception that we will now have excess fuel in the second stage to do a proper min-miss burn, min-miss transfer. So the unboosted Optio, not the most cost-effective of our rockets. But it is more cost-effective per ton than the Sochi or the Decanis unboosted versions. But that's why we keep both designs around. We got the larger rockets for cost effectiveness per ton, so we can launch larger vehicles and get more done. And for small payloads, there's no need to add anything to. We've got the Sochi and the Decanis for, and this Optio for light payloads. So we don't waste any money on them. A little bit of heating here. This is going to more or less get us into our apogee before we even don't want to. Okay, yeah, don't want to leave our prograde vector. Prograde vector is going to keep us from getting lots of air resistance. So I made a little bit of a tactical error doing that. Although we do have a very high apogee, so really no worries there. We're only going to worry about circularizing our orbit at this point. So we can now drop our fairing. I was a little wrong about the timing there. A little bit of wobble. So once we get to space, we'll see this time change. Yep, 57-second burn now at this point. Cheetah's a good, powerful engine for a payload of this size. So we're just going to keep all the mass we can together until that last moment. Extra mass helps us keep our momentum. Although we're already in space, so that kind of no longer matters. So we want to be about, what's this? 30... 29, yeah, about 29 seconds away from the maneuver node when we hit go. I missed my window there. Because I was distracted, I forgot to deploy the solar panels. That's what I was thinking of. Also forgot to deploy one of the antenna at least, just to make sure that we maintain radio contact. I'm going to do that while we're accelerating here. Only missed our window by a second there. So this stretched second stage I want to make sure we get enough delta V left over, which it looks like we'll be fine to do both an inclination change in low Kerbin orbit, just to simplify our maneuvering, even though it is typically wasteful when it comes to fuel, and then I'll also do our min-mass transfer itself. We don't need to worry about getting this into a perfect orbit because we already had quite a high orbit. Alright, now we want to set min-mass as our target. Usually a transfer burn is somewhere in the range, although this might actually work out. Let's just see what happens. I was starting to talk and I realized I could probably manage an intercept right hereabouts, which is close to the ascending node, and therefore don't really need to make serious inclination adjustments until we get there, or as part of our burn. Yeah, no, you know, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a mid-course inclination correction like I did on the other rocket for a very large payload with the Equus. I think that's probably what we need to do right here. It needs to be in a synchronous orbit. This should be interesting. So this is going to be 38-second burn. So, and this is why when I was looking at launch vehicles, I skipped right over the Decanus E. The Decanus E, E for economy, trades out the Cheetah engine that I also carry over to that smaller vehicle, and trades that out for a Terrier. Which is more than enough to get a 3-ton payload to orbit, but is not sufficient for getting a translunar or trans-min-mass burn completed in a reasonable amount of time. Actually, probably going to point this so the solar panel is facing north, just so I know it can always rotate and find the sun if it's visible. The craft itself won't create a shadow on the solar panel, at least not much of one. So at about, what's that, 15 plus 4, 19 seconds away from the maneuver node, we will go full throttle. And my internal clock is telling me it's 9 o'clock. 9:05, pretty close. Okay. Tracking that maneuver node carefully. A little bit of correction. Problem with long burns is I always end up needing to make another correction after the correction. Just like now. So that's us. That's it. Okay. Let's see if we add a maneuver here. Okay. And right there. Alright. That's a little better. How much delta V does that use? 20. 20 meters per second of delta V. Much better than doing an inclination change earlier. We've only got one day to this maneuver. We're going to time warp to that one because our other craft still have a long way to go till their rendezvous. And that'll set us up for tomorrow night's stream. Being able to get the Equus here and the other satellite, hopefully the Grav probe, off to Minmus. Of course, the first half of this leg is the fastest because we slow down to a stop at apogee, basically, and then fall back to. So that is the slowest point, so you'll just be progressively slowing down until you reach there. It's like one long braking maneuver. Up the rest of the way to the maneuver. Almost going to be bringing back the way we came. It's a very minor burn. Try and turn it into a 4-second burn, which are, I find, easier to time properly. I think I probably could have gotten away with a cut down Decanus. I think I was too worried about it. Oh, why I'm not time warping. Decide, but I'm getting tired. Alright, 2 seconds away. We hit the throttle. There we go. Well-timed and executed burn. To go a little heavy on the throttle there. But that's fine. We're still going to have a nice high perigee for our capture burn. We'll have plenty of fuel to do a capture burn. With still the second stage, this reused second stage. So pretty cool. Once again, aim prograde. Orient my craft so its solar panel is facing north, so I can make sure it's getting sun throughout the journey. And there we are. I think that's how we're going to call it for the night. We've got another probe on the way to Minmus. We've got a lot going on at Minmus now. So we're going to land that lander that we no longer need, mine that ore that we no longer need, and return that craft to Kerbin. And then hopefully make lots of money on it because we're needing to do something with that. We'll at least get the contract for returning a craft from Kerbin, although there was infinitely cheaper ways to do that. If I'd only realized that I could have closed the contract anyway. But that's it for tonight. If you do want to see more, you can always check out our YouTube videos of our previous streams. Download the link at the bottom, youtube.com/dudeicalledyoubro. And of course, we stream almost every single night, with a few exceptions.